Hey, Derp, hey, Sassy, how you guys doing? Sorry I'm a little late, but I was, baking some bread. Good, my bread came out a little burnt, but other than that, I'm okay. I forgot to cheat. The puppies are adorable. The name of the song I'm playing, what did we call it? It's actually a song I had someone make for me. I have to look it up. I'm not sure I actually named it. But it's made by Surreal. I've seen him around lately. Sure, Omar's around somewhere though. And the puppies are adorable. They're still getting bigger. I haven't weighed them tonight. I'll probably do that at my stream. I also got to put wraps on the boys. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna put the pictures of the finished project on locals. Not that I actually looks at my locals, but if I start putting stuff there, maybe people will start go to my locals. Ah, it's called the summoning. That's what we call it. Sure. Rumble, since I don't does Rumble chats as well. How's everybody doing tonight? There you go, camera. Hi. Nightbot's evil. There. Yeah, locals is interesting. I need to put the link in somewhere. Okay. Think I got it. some point in the future. I didn't just break. Okay, touchdown on paper on tentacle. Let's see here. Okay, I think we got everything. I think we're good to go. So again, how is everybody tonight? Oh no, I still haven't done Twitter. God damn Twitter. No. No, why would you do that? I didn't want that. Right. Um, why isn't it there? It should be here. Saw that before. We'll figure that out. There. All done. Hey, Unlucky, how you doing? Y'all, nice to see other fellow not cultists. No, that was just me being weird and quiet. Sorry. Hopefully I'm coming through okay. Ah, let me know if there are any weird pops. How about the Canadian Bear appearance on Tuesday night's main event? I actually missed Tuesday night's main event this week, so I didn't get to see that. Not that you guys can see him up there, but I like him up there. Okay. All right, there we go. I know next week on Tuesday night's main event, they're going to have a special teaser from the Epic Verse, Epic Mike's and Josiah's studio, I guess is what that's called. So that's exciting. I'll definitely be checking that out. George sent a big super chat, so George would do that too. World is nuts and I'm allergic to nuts. As am I. Unlucky, it's disappointing. Yeah, I'm really curious to see it, but I know they've been working hard on it, so I'm really excited to see what they do. Jeremy put out a tweet about it earlier this week. I want to say Wednesday, yesterday, maybe. No, it wouldn't have been on Tuesday because I know it was after Tuesday night's main event. So it was yesterday he put the tweet out on it. So it'll definitely be something you don't want to miss. Uh, I've heard of Lotus Eaters before on Lucky. I don't know who they are off the top of my head, though. Is my mic working? Because I don't see my mic move. Okay, there we go. My mic's moving, scaring me for a second. Okay. Ding. That thing's good. Those things good. We're good. Lotus Eaters are awesome. Okay, cool. I almost said, hey, I'm going to read you guys the original Snow White tonight. There's two people, both me. That's my character. They are both. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Now, just as a reminder, this Sunday I will be starting Scorn, but I will only be playing that over on Rumble. Probably Rumble, well, not just on Rumble. I think after I figure out how to do it, it's going to be Rumble and my local. So I don't know if I stream to those independently somehow. Still figuring that part out. But that will be Sunday. Saturday, things might have to cancel the Fortnite stream again, just because I have inventory that I have to do at my job. I don't know if I'm going to be done in time or if I'm going to be up to it after it all, because there's a lot of inventory that needs to be taken care of. So I don't know for sure on Saturday yet. And I was thinking about maybe switching to a different game. No, it's Scorn, Cap. Silly man. Hmm, interesting. So yeah, that's what we got here. Is dead. That's okay. Hmm. So yeah, what do you guys think? Should I read you Snow White? You know what? It's probably just better to pop that out. There we go. That. Here. I can remember. That's the right one. Read Snow White. I'm going to go stream, but I'll also give you a lark and I'll definitely watch the VOD. Awesome. Okay. I want the original. M's? Yeah, it's a okay. Rims, I think off my phone. I think I have that. Kind of wish I had some of my books in here because I do have it a traditional book, but what about ads? Ads what, Derp? Oh, hey, Dirty Sand. How are you doing tonight? Good to see you over here on Rumble. Yeah. Poems. Apparently, I don't have a Grimm's Father Tale. Very nice to see you. Gonna go ahead and read. You know, I got so irritated by the. I shouldn't say I got. I get so irritated by the whole Disney bullshit. They're making live action uh Snow White, and of course she looks absolutely nothing like Snow White. But I decided, I would like to read the original story. Or can we not recommend apps in chat? I mean, I'm sure you can. I don't see where you recommended one. I think I missed it. Unless, hold on, I think it might be on a different screen. I'm doing all right. I'm just a little tired. I baked some bread, some chocolate cinnamon bread that I'm definitely looking forward to eating. But it's got to cool and got a little burnt around the edges. But a new oven. I'm just learning how, there's always a bit of adjustment that you need to do between a new and an old oven. So this one's being a little tricky on me, but I'll get there. There's something that got maybe. I mean, you can recommend apps, but I don't see anything. But if you can't recommend it on YouTube, you can always go Rumble. Recommend it there. Let's see if it's in here. I think they said Little Snow White. Yeah, that looks right. Puppies doing great, Wade. They're getting fat and happy and all that fun stuff. They are adorable. Adorable puppies. So now, what I'm going to read you is the Grimm's fairy tale version of Snow White. It's called Little Snow White. And yeah, after that, maybe Google into the history, since so many people neglect the history behind. Every day just praying for the downfall of Disney, with everyone in the OG fandoms finally fed up with seeing our favorite IPs destroys independents are starting to step up and make new properties. Absolutely. And I love that so many are making new properties. At the same time, I think it's important we don't forget where the properties they destroyed came from. Because I mean, it's like this rings of power bullshit. Just because they're they made a really crappy series on Amazon doesn't mean that Tolkien's dead. No matter what they do to any of our stuff, whether it's the original Star Wars movies or Harry Potter or any of that stuff, anything that you love, the original work is still there, and it is still okay to love that. And it's important to, I think, still love it because, I mean, it's still good. It'll take some time, but we will vigilantly gatekeep our properties more. Yeah, but we will gatekeep our properties more vigilantly going forward. Yeah, I would hope so. But I mean, it is an unfortunate failing of human nature that as time passes, you release, people relax and let things happen. But on the plus side, we will soon be experiencing a renaissance, I think. Or as I guess Razor Fist calls it, the Iron Age. It'll be interesting. So, this is Little Snow White by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm. Once upon a time in midwinter, when the snowflakes were falling like feathers from heaven, a queen sat sewing at her window, which had a frame of black ebony wood. As she sewed, she looked up at the snow and pricked her finger with her needle. 3 drops of blood fell into the snow. The red on the white looked so beautiful that she thought to herself, if only I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood in this frame. Soon after she had a little daughter who was white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony wood, and therefore they called her Little Snow White. And as soon as the child was born, the queen died. A year later, the king took himself another wife. She was a beautiful woman, but she was proud and arrogant. She could not stand it if anyone might surpass her in beauty. She had a magic mirror. Every morning she stood before it, looked at herself, and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of all?" To this the mirror answered, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." Then she was satisfied, for she knew the mirror spoke truth. Snow White grew and became ever more beautiful. When she was 7 years old, she was as beautiful as the light of day, even more beautiful than the queen herself. One day, when the queen asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, when this land is fairest of all," it answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen took fright and turned yellow and green with envy. From that hour on, whenever she looked at Snow White, her heart turned over inside her body, so great was her hatred for the girl. The envy and pride grew ever greater, like a weed in her heart, until she had no peace day and night. Then she summoned a huntsman and said to him, "Take Snow White out into the wood. I never want to see her again. Kill her, and as proof she is dead, bring her lungs and her liver back to me." The huntsman obeyed and took Snow White into the woods. He took out his hunting knife and was about to stab it into her innocent heart when she began to cry, saying, "Oh, dear huntsman, let me live. I will run into the wild woods and never come back." Because she was so beautiful, the huntsman took pity on her. And he said, "Run away, you poor child." He thought the wild animals would soon devour you anyway, but it was still as if a stone had fallen from his heart, for he would not have to kill her. Just then, a young boar came running by. He killed it and cut out its lungs and liver, and then took them back to the queen as proof of Snow White's death. The cook had boiled them with salt, and the wicked woman ate them, supposing that she had just eaten Snow White's lung and liver. The poor child was now all alone in the great forest, and she was so afraid that she just looked at all the leaves on the trees and did not know what to do. Then, even as she began to run, she ran over stones and through thorns, and wild animals jumped her, but they did her no harm. She ran as far as she could carry her, and just as evening was about to fall, she saw a little house and went inside in order to rest. Inside the house, everything was small, but so neat and clean that no one could say otherwise. There was a little table with white tablecloth and 7 little plates, and each plate had a spoon, and there were 7 knives and forks and 7 mugs as well. Against the wall there were 7 little beds, all standing in a row, covered with snow white sheets. Because she was so hungry and thirsty, Snow White ate a few vegetables and a little bread from each plate, and from each mug she drank a drop of wine. Afterwards, because she was so tired, she laid on a bed, but none of them felt right. One was too long, the other too short, and finally the seventh one was just right. She remained laying in it and trusted herself to God and fell asleep. After dark, the masters of the house returned. They were the seven dwarfs who picked and dug for ore in the mountains. They lit their seven candles, and as soon as it was light in the house, they saw how someone had been there, for not everything was in the same order as they had left it. The first one said, "Who has been sitting in my chair?" The second one said, "Who has been eating from my plate?" The third one, "Who has been eating my bread?" The fourth one, "Who has been eating my vegetables?" The fifth one, "Who has been sticking with my fork?" The sixth one, "Who has been cutting with my knife?" The seventh one, "Who has been drinking from my mug?" Then the first one saw that there was a little imprint in his bed and said, "Who stepped on my bed?" The others saw that there was a little imprint. The others came running and shouted, "Someone has been lying in mine as well." But the seventh one, looking at his bed, found Snow White lying there. The seven dwarfs all came running up, and they cried out with immense amazement. They fetched their seven candles and shone the light on Snow White. "Oh, good heaven! Oh, good heaven!" they cried. "This child is so beautiful." They were so happy that they did not wake her up, but continued to let her continue to sleep there in bed. The seventh dwarf had to sleep with his companions 1 hour with each one, and then the night was done. The next morning, Snow White woke up. When she saw the seven dwarfs, she was frightened, but they were friendly and asked, "What is your name?" "My name is Snow White," she answered. "How did you find your way to our house?" the dwarfs asked further. Then she told them that her stepmother had tried to kill her, that the huntsman had spared her life, and that she had run the entire day, finally coming to their house. The dwarfs said, "If you will keep house for us, cook and make bed, wash, sew, and knit, and keep everything clean and orderly, then you can stay with us, and you shall have everything that you want." "Yes," said Snow White, "with all my heart." So she kept house for them. Every morning they went into the mountains looking for ore and gold, and in the evening when they came home, their meals had to be ready. During the day, the girl was alone. The dwarfs warned her, saying, "Be careful about your stepmother. She will soon know that you are here. Do not let anyone in." Now the queen, believing that she had eaten Snow White's lungs and liver, could only think she was again the first and most beautiful woman of all. She stepped before her mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" It answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true. But Snow White beyond the mountains with the seven dwarfs is still 1,000 times fairer than you." Startled the queen, for she knew that the mirror did not lie, and she realized the huntsman had deceived her, and that Snow White was still alive. She then thought and thought, how could she kill Snow White? For as long as she was not the most beautiful woman in the entire land, envy would give her no rest. At last she thought of something. Coloring her face, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman, so that no one would recognize her. In this disguise, she went to the house of the seven dwarfs. Knocking on the door, she called out, "Beautiful wares for sale, for sale." Snow White peered out the window and said, "Good day, dear woman. What do you have for sale?" "Good wares, beautiful wares," she answers. "Bodice, laces, in all colors." And she took out one that was braided from colorful silk. "Would you like this one?" "I can let that honest woman in," thought Snow White, then unbolted the door and bought the pretty lace bodice. "Child," said the woman, "how you look. Come, let me lace you up properly." Unsuspecting, Snow White stood before her and let her do up the new lace. But the old woman pulled so quickly and so hard, Snow White could not breathe. "You used to be the most beautiful one," said the old woman, and hurried away. Not long after, in the evening, the seven dwarfs came home. Terrified they, how terrified they were when they saw their dear Snow White lying on the ground, not moving at all, as though she were dead. They lifted her up, and seeing she was laced too tightly, they cut the lace in two. Then she began to breathe a little, and little by little she came back to life. When the dwarfs heard what happened, they said, "The old peddler woman was no one else but the godless queen. Take care and let no one else in while we are not with you." When the wicked woman returned home, she went to her mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" The mirror once again answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true. But Snow White beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarfs is still 1,000 times fairer than you." When she heard that, all her blood ran to her heart because she knew that Snow White had come back to life. This time she said, "I shall think of something that will destroy you." Then, with the art of witchcraft, which she understood, she made a poisoned comb. Then she disguised herself, taking the form of a different old woman. Thus she went across the 7 mountains to the 7 dwarfs, knocked on the door, and called out, "Good wares for sale, for sale." Snow White looked out and said, "Go on your way. I'm not allowed to let anyone in." "Surely you may take a look," the old woman said, pulling out the poisoned comb and holding it up. The child liked it so much that she let herself be deceived, and she opened up the door. After they'd agreed on the purchase, the old woman said, "Now let me comb your hair properly." She had barely slipped the comb into Snow White's hair when the poison took effect, and the girl fell down unconscious. "You specimen of beauty," the wicked woman, "you're now finished." And she walked away. Fortunately, it was almost evening, and the 7 dwarfs came home. When they saw Snow White laying on the ground as if she were dead, they immediately suspected her stepmother. They examined her and found the poisoned comb. They had scarcely pulled it out when Snow White came to herself again and told them what happened. Once again, they warned her to be on guard and not to open the door for anyone. Back at home, the queen stepped before her mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" Mirror answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true, but Snow White beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarfs is still 1,000 times fairer than you." Queen heard the mirror saying this. She shook and trembled with anger. "Snow White shall die," she shouted, "if it costs me my life." Then she went into her most secret room. No one else was allowed inside, and she made a poisoned apple. From the outside it was beautiful, white with red cheeks, and anyone who saw it would want it, but anyone who might eat a little piece of it would die. Then, coloring her face, she disguised herself as a peasant woman, and thus went across the 7 mountains to the 7 dwarfs. She knocked on the door. Snow White stuck her head out and said, "I am not allowed to let anyone in. The dwarfs have forbidden me to do so." "That is all right with me," answered the peasant woman. "I'll easily get rid of my apples. Here, I'll give you one of them." "No," said Snow White, "I cannot accept anything." "Are you afraid of poison?" asked the old woman. "Look, I'll cut the apple in two. You eat the red half, and I shall eat the white half." Now the apple had been so artfully made that only the red half was poisoned. Snow White longed for the beautiful apple, and when she saw the peasant woman eating part of it, she could no longer resist, and she stuck her head out and took the poisoned half. She barely had a bite in her mouth when she fell to the ground dead. The queen looked at her with a gruesome stare, laughed loudly, and said, "White as snow, red as blood, black as ebony, this time the dwarfs cannot awaken you." Back home, she asked Mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" Finally answered, "You, my queen, are fairest of all." Then her envious heart was at rest, as well as an envious heart can be at rest. The dwarfs came home that evening. They found Snow White laying on the ground. She was not breathing at all. She was dead. They lifted her up and looked for something poisonous. They undid her laces. They combed her hair. They washed her with water and wine. Nothing helped. The dear child was dead, and she remained dead. They laid her on a bier, and all 7 sat next to her and mourned for her and cried for 3 days. They were going to bury her, but she still looked fresh as a living person and still had her beautiful red cheeks. They said, "We cannot bury her in the black earth," and they had a transparent glass coffin made so she could be seen from all sides. They laid her inside with golden letters wrote on it her name and that she was a princess. Then they put the coffin outside on a mountain, and one of them always stayed with it and watched over her. The animals, too, came to mourn for Snow White, first an owl, then a raven, and finally a dove. Snow White lay there in the coffin a long, long time. She did not decay, but looked like she was asleep, for she was still as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black-haired as ebony wood. Now it came to pass that a prince entered these woods and happened onto the dwarf's house, where he sought shelter for the night. He saw the coffin on the mountain with the beautiful Snow White in it, and read what was written on it in golden letters. Then he said to the dwarfs, "Let me have the coffin. I will give you anything you want for it." But the dwarfs answered, "We will not sell it for all the gold in the world." Then he said, "Then give it to me, for I cannot live without being able to see Snow White. I will honor her and respect her as my most cherished one." As he spoke thus, the dwarfs felt pity for him and gave him the coffin. The prince had his servants carry it away on their shoulders. But then it happened that one of them stumbled on some brush, and dislodged from Snow White's throat the piece of poison apple that she had eaten off. Not long afterwards, she opened her eyes, lifted the lid from her coffin, sat up, and was alive again. "Good heavens, where am I?" she cried out. The prince said joyfully, "You are with me." He told her what had happened, and then said, "I love you more than anything else in the world. Come with me to my father's castle. You shall become my wife." Snow White loved him, and she went with him. Their wedding was planned with great splendor and majesty. Snow White's godless stepmother was also invited to the feast. After putting on her beautiful clothes, she stepped before her mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" The mirror answered, "You, my queen, are fair, it's true, but the young queen is 1,000 times fairer than you." The wicked woman uttered a curse and became so frightened that she did not know what to do. At first, she did not want to go to the wedding, but she found no peace. She had to go and see the young queen. When she arrived, she recognized Snow White and terrorized. She could only stand there without moving. Then they put a pair of iron shoes into burning coals. They were brought forth with tongs and placed before her. She was forced to step into the red-hot shoes and dance until she fell down dead. The end. A little different than the Disney movie, you think? So, all right. What have I met? What have I missed? What have I missed? Missed. Uh, Hammer horror. Oh God, and punk. Puppies. Every time Blood Bastard dies, I buy a DVD. The original version. Yeah. The OG MOTU. Masters of the Universe. She-Ra, Princess of Power, and Scooby-Doo. Hey, Punk Bottle, how you doing? Just trying to address the state of the fourth wall and the effects Marvel have. Oh God. Yeah, Marvel's basically killed the fourth wall for sure. I've heard a theory that the prince came to take the afterlife. A little more creepy. I mean, that's one way to look at it for sure. The Grimm's fairy tales are always a little more dark than the Disney versions. Well, most of the fairy tales are more dark than what we typically see. Probably part of why I enjoy them so much. Good to hear. I wish I could find the version of Cinderella. I want to say it's the Korean version where she cuts off her stepsister's heads, buries them in kimchi jars, and her stepmother digs them up. I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've read it. I really wish I'd saved any of that stuff, honestly. I know the websites have got to still be out there. But, I mean, with the shit going on, I see that article about the girl they have playing Snow White going around again about how Snow White isn't just looking for love and doesn't need a prince or this time. And it's like, do you even know? I mean, it's back to the whole Lord of the Rings shit. Do you even know the source material? I mean, really? Do you? Do you even care? You know, from what we just read, literally, Snow White is not a girl looking for a prince. She just happens to find one. Could I read The Raven? I've read The Raven. Well, I guess I haven't read The Raven on stream before, but I've read The Raven in the past. Well, Cinderella's acting like Harp. But I have read The Raven before. I just haven't read The Raven in a long time. Well, yeah, I mean, they don't care about the story. Disney acts like they own these stories, which don't, obviously. Uh, they can't come and copyright me, for example, copyright strike me, for example, for reading that because they don't own it. Ideologies and politics. Yeah, that's what they care about is ideology and politics. And I'm tired of it personally. I I don't care about your ideology. I don't care about politics. I care about good stories. If there happens to be some ideology and politics in it, as long as it's not blatantly stupid, I can get around it and live my life. So they can own their own version. Well, thankfully, their own version isn't that great. I mean, it's kind of the Snow White one. The cartoon ones are okay. Um, I'm personally not a big fan of how they really lightened them up myself, but it is what it is. So go back to it, back to the original versions. Okay, yeah. Disney proves with every repurposed trash that they vomit out that they have no ideas, no creativities. They have zero interest in pretending they do. Evil does not create, only destroys or corrupts it. I'm pretty sure that's basically partly a quote from Tolkien. Yeah. Yeah, Disney has no creativity left anymore. It is so not the company that Walt created anymore. Wishbone told us stories. Yes, I remember Wishbone. I'm that old. I like in-lore politics, like the Dwarven politics in Dragon Age. Yeah, yeah, the Dwarven politics in Dragon Age were good. Even the Elven that they had going on with those werewolves, you could kind of consider that in some ways political. But yeah, I mean that there's nothing wrong with that shit. It's relay politics invading that I have a bigger issue with. I don't mind if you're trying to, well, take that back. To some degree, I might mind if you're trying to or influence others by putting your ideals in your stories. If the only thing that is interesting about your stories is your ideals, it has to be well written. It still has to be a good story. If you're not writing a good story, you're not getting anywhere with me. This evening we were politics and fantasy and sci-fi is a great way to deal with real life issues, but in a different setting and not a one-to-one comparison. Absolutely, punk. Absolutely. Uh, as a kid, all I ever wanted was film adaptations of my favorite books and comics. Now I pray they stay away from them. The same dirty saying. When I was little, I read The Dragon Riders of Pern. And I sent a letter. I wrote a letter and sent it to the writer because this is how old I am. We didn't have email, so you couldn't email. I actually hand wrote a letter and sent it to Anne Caffrey, who is the author of The Dragon Riders of Pern. And I asked her if they were going to make a movie because I wanted to see a movie so bad. Now I sit here and think, God, I hope to God they do not find this and decide to make a movie. We'll slaughter it. And the sad thing is if you've ever read The Dragon Riders of Pern, I actually have a breakdown of it on my levels of the first book. Because I was trying to start a book club, but it didn't go very far. But Lessa, who is the female protagonist in the books, is a strong woman. She is an amazing, strong woman. She's a woman, though. I mean, she's not a man. She's not a woman pretending to be a man. She's an actual woman. She does things in the way a woman would do. And she is vicious and smart and manipulative. It's great because she's matched with the male protagonist, Lar, who is strong, yet vicious and forthright. And I mean, they make an excellent, they play off each other wonderfully. And it's really disheartening to see that there's actually already a Shannara, or was, I should say. Yes, no, she's not a woman. She's not one of those women you see on TV today. She's an actual, honest to God woman. But they did do a Shannara series on Netflix. They did it off of Wish Song of Shannara. And it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. I'm kind of glad they didn't do any more of it, but you know, it wasn't the worst thing. Compared to Rings of Power, it was amazing. There was 2 seasons. I must have missed the second season. But it was okay. I mean, compared to Rings of Power, it's much better. When it comes to those books though, like I do think Shannara, Sword of Truth, all those would be better as series as opposed to books because you really need so much more time. It's like my favorite I love David Eddings' The Elenium and Tamuli. And I think that would be an amazing series. There are 3 books, but you know, each book could literally be a season. Or a season. All 3 books. I mean, each book could be a season. So technically you could, since they're both kind of related, you could get 6 seasons out of it if you planned it right and paced it right. But I think that would be great. But no. I got Lieutenant Ellen Ripley. That's one that you get directly out of a movie, though. I'm talking about books. But yes, Ellen Ripley is an amazing woman. Manu Bennett was in it. I don't know who that is, Punk. But yeah. That they honestly, so much of it comes, I feel, from a lack of respect of people and thinking that they have to do it their way. So because people are too dumb to get it the right way, it's like, how do you think these books became so popular in the first place? If we are that dumb that we're not going to get it, how do you think they became so popular? Anyone? Seriously? It's depressing. I got this thing that I want to bite on my finger, and I really shouldn't. If I bite it, it just gets worse. So I'm going to use nippers on it instead. I have a terrible habit of chewing the skin on the nails. I need to get over it. There's 2 spots. Got it. All right. They don't bleed. Anthony, it's good to see you. Oh, it was Al-Anon. Oh God, Al-Anon is one of. It's sad, but it maybe it's what's the word? Maybe it's stereotypical, but Alan's one of my favorite characters. Because books, series, shows, movies were art back in the day. They had standards. Same with games. Nowadays, they just look at the demographic they can sell. Not as good as all. Uh, Mainstream. I agree with you. Just remember another thing. I hope they never touch was the Distorted series by R.A. Salvatore. God, I would absolutely lose my shit if that was ruined for newcomers to the IP. I feel the same way about Dragonlance. Saying Dragonlance and Deathgate Cycle, which are both by um, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. Thankfully, I don't think I have to worry about them doing the Deathgate Cycle. Now that I've said that, they probably will and absolutely fuck it up. Hey, Zizzle time. Good to see you. I hope you're having a good evening. But I mean, it's like they're basically trying to kill everything right now. D&D. Accident. Wanted to get into Dragonlance, but I'm a Forgotten Realms nerd. I still I got into Dragonlance more because I liked Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman as writers. So you have to remember these people can't read. Ooh, Ghost of Tsushima is good. A good game. I'm so much looking forward to school. Disappointed because I have to wait until Sunday to play it because I'm only doing one night a week on Rumble, and I want to have a game that I play only on Rumble. And that's going to be my game. I play only on Rumble. But that's okay. Because doing it this way, I get to play 2 games at once. So I'm going to do 2 nights in A Plague Tale Requiem on Twitch. And then I'm going to do Scorned on Rumble. El Monster is probably one of my favorite characters of all time. If you've never read Ed Greenwood books, I recommend them. I've never even heard of Ed Greenwood. I would have to look that up. Oh, Elminster. Elminster. Okay. That makes more sense. I'm like, this must be some kind of joke book. They're calling him El Monster. Uh, Finish platinum. Doing it again. You know, you like a game when you play it that many times. I'm playing Castlevania 4 while watching and chatting. I recommend that game if you've never played it. Super Castlevania 4. Probably played it back in the day. The autocorrect. Autocorrect is evil. You're not wrong. Autocorrect is absolutely evil. Speaking of Dragonlance, can I start in the preludes first, or I recommend starting with what is it? Dragon of Autumn, Twilight. Those 3. Dragons of Autumn, Twilight, Dragons of Winter, something. It's been a long time since I've read them, so I don't remember the exact titles. But start with those books. Start with that trilogy. And yeah, if you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, Punk, you should absolutely play it. Yep, spank the like button, hit the Rumble button over there on Rumble if you can for me. Get me some more Rumbles. I'd appreciate both. Um, like, subscribe. Join Rumble and subscribe because, yeah, all good going back and forth with, you know what? Dark on it this time? What? see here. Let's see here. Here we go. We're gonna look at this because I wanna deep dive. That way, that way. Me and that at the same time. Go me. Ever read the Justicar books by Kemp? Some of the funniest D&D books I've ever read. The banter. I have not read those. I'll be honest. The only D&D novels that I've read are the Dragonlance ones. I had some of the Forgotten Realms, but I never read them because I never had all of them. And I've got this thing. Oh, look, there's a cat in my background. Got this thing where I have problems reading a series if I don't have all the books. Like the fact that I read Isom #1, but I have wait for him to put out Isom #2. Really bugs me. But it is what it is. So, of course, the very first Disney feature film was in 1937. That tells you how long ago it was. And this should tell you a lot about the art of Disney in the first back when he first started. That you look at it, you watch it, and it still looks good today. I watched the Wonderful World of Disney where he actually explained the machine that they use to do their filming and to get it layered the way they did, which gave it that kind of 3D effect even way back then. It was so cool. Descent into depths of the earth, White Plume Mountain, and Queen of the Demon Wood Pit. Also, it's by Paul Kidd, not Kemp. Don't know why I said Kemp. At least you got the K right. I can't find Dragons Bottom Twilight. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah. Dragons of Dawn of Twilight, Dragons of Winter Night, Dragons of Spring's Dawning. Shouldn't be too hard to find if you look around, though. You read the Elder Scroll novels, Lord of Souls, Infernal City by Great Keys. I haven't read those either. Too many books, hard to keep all the authors straight sometimes, I guess. I can understand that problem. I've read a lot of books myself. Meow. You know, I did try to start up that book club on Locals, and it reminded me how much I love reading, especially the good books. I mean, Anne McCaffrey used time travel in that book in a way that is absolutely like great. And only I mean, and kind of surprising, excuse me. Let's see here. The Regional Tales, a 19th century collection of fairy tales written in German by the brothers Grimm, who also wrote Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, and Rumpelstiltskin. We read Sleeping Beauty last. Brothers Grimm published their books in 1812, featuring the story of Schneewittchen, Snow White. They'll contain many of the elements we know and love today, such as magic mirror, poisoned apple, glass coffin, the characters of the Queen's Seven Dwarfs. However, the dwarfs did not have names until the story was brought into Broadway in 1912, and then they were called Blick, Flick, Flick, Snick, Flick, Wick, and Quee. Say that 5 times fast. I have multiple books I haven't read yet. Oh, we won't even talk about the books I haven't read. I may or may not have a book issue. Broadway show starred Marguerite Clark as Snow White, as well as the Seven Dwarfs, featured the evil Queen Brangoma, Berthold the Huntsman, the handsome Prince Florimond of Caledon. I can't even think fast. I bought The Witcher last week and Star Wars Courtship of Princess Leia. I'm going to have some fun reading. Just don't tell Sheep you bought The Witcher because he'll yell at you. Thankfully, he's not paying attention, so we don't have to listen to that.
I heard you.
God damn it.
Okay. But was I supposed to care?
You usually care.
The
Witcher? No, but when someone says they're reading it, you usually start yelling about Elric of Normandy.
Oh, I mean, I don't care if people read The Witcher, just to know that it's a ripoff of Elric. Well, it's a ripoff of the Elric of Melniboné if you want to check out something better. You can enjoy The Witcher as well, just Elric is.
Gotta take off, but have a fantastic night. I'll hold the fellowship. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking on Rum 30 Sand. Makes me feel a little less lonely over there. Okay, so was successful and became basis for a silent 1916 film, Snow White, also starring Clark. It was actually quite pretty. Gary loves The Witcher so much he's in one room. Yes, that's what we'll go with. Gary didn't ever want the game to end, so he didn't leave the first room. The film was seen by a certain 15-year-old called Walt Disney, who was inspired to recreate the story in animated form. This Clark one was pretty pretty. I mean, of course, it's hard to tell. I mean, obviously, she had the black hair, but the red lips and stuff. Harder to see in black and white. With a budget of $1.5 million, that's a very tiny budget, Disney's animated feature Snow White was a commercial and critical success, taking more than $8 million during its initial release. In fact, adjusting for inflation, Snow White is the world's highest grossing animated film, coming at a whopping, oh god, that's a lot of zeros, $1,977,000,000. So basically $2 million or $2 billion for his first animated film. Jesus Christ. Snow White was nominated for Best Musical Score at the Academy Awards in 1938, losing out to 100 Men and a Girl. The following year, Shirley Temple presented Walt Disney with a unique honorary Oscar, 1 normal-sized statuette and 7 miniature ones. Cute. Is Snow White a true story? Research has suggested that the origins of Snow White could actually lie in history and may have been inspired by the Countess Margaretha von Waldeck and her alleged lover, Philip II of Spain. The Countess, who died in 1554, was famed for her beauty. Her strict stepmother and father sent her first to her uncle's house, and then to the court of Mary of Hungary, where she was pursued by Philip. Last, their relationship was doomed, as Philip was a Catholic and Margaretha was a Lutheran. Margaretha's letters to her father before her death speak of failing health, and the Walrick Chronicles suggested that she had been poisoned, dying at the age of 21. However, the seven dwarfs are also involved in this real life story. Well, sort of. Margaretha's father owned a series of copper mines, and the majority of workers were children. Due to the malnutrition and poor working conditions, the children were allegedly called poor dwarfs. Could these be the dwarfs of the fairy tale? Just like the dwarfs, the children lived in small groups, all sharing a single room house. So convinced are the residents of the mine's location, the village of Bergfreiheit. They now call the village Schneewittendorf, Snow White Village. Schneewittchen. A long time since I've spoke German. Sweet dreams, hail the Lord. Thank you so much for being here, and hail. Good night. We all know about the poisoned apple, but in the original version in Grimm's Fairy Tale, the wicked queen tries to both suffocate Snow White by giving her a lacy bodice and then tightening the laces and then stab her in the head with a poisoned comb. The queen gets her comeuppance at the end at her stepdaughter's wedding, when the prince orders her to wear a pair of red-hot iron slippers and to dance in them until she drops dead. Other versions in other countries have Snow White taking refuge with robbers rather than dwarfs, or staying in a castle or on a house on the seashore rather than a forest. Other variants include an enchanted dress, poisoned stockings, or deadly flowers rather than poisoned apple. Or Snow White being called Ermelina and running away from home by riding an eagle who takes her away to a palace inhabited by fairies. Other versions have evil older sisters rather than a stepmother. Their Cochelle, as our heroine is called in the Italian version, taking refuge with the moon, who also plays the role of the magic mirror. The sisters send an astrologer to kill Mr. Cochelle, who, after several failed attempts, turns her into a statue using an enchanted shirt. All comes good in the end, however, when the prince's sisters remove the shirt and revives their Cochelle. Okay, I'm saying that totally wrong, but whatever. Is there a British Snow White? Ooh. A Scottish version called Goldtree and Silvertree involves Queen Silvertree consulting a trout in a well rather than the familiar. Oh my god, Alex, what? What? Come here. What? A trout in a well rather than the familiar magic mirror in order to find out who is the most beautiful. Princess Goldtree ends up being tricked by a poisoned thorn. Another Scottish version also featuring a verbose trout. What's with all the talking fish? Names the Princess Lasar Going. I'm sure I said that wrong, which means flames of branches. Running away from her stepmother, Lasar Going takes refuge with 13 cats, who turn out to be an enchanted prince and his squires. Lasar marries the prince, but the wicked queen sends 3 ice giants to trap her in a death-like state. Both these stories, the prince remarries, and it is his second wife who saves the day, rescuing our heroine from the poisoned thorn or reviving her from her trance. Well, how does that go? Is he then still married to the first one, or is it like a polyamory thing? Oh, wait, is pantomime? Oh my god, is that the queen or something? Often regarded as an excellent acting opportunity for little people these days, the parts of dwarves are usually played by teenagers or children. Disney has copyrighted its dwarves' names, so pantomimes come up own. Comic elements are introduced by the dame, who often portrays a housekeeper or cook, and muddles a palace or served or villager. Snow White is the hero, and the other characters are, of course, the handsome prince, the huntsman, who is often a henchman of the queen to begin with, but comes good in the end, and a gentle-hearted king, who is tricked and beguiled by his evil second wife. The magic mirror is sometimes a person, or more usually, a chance for the theater to show off its special effects. Interesting. So there we go. Apparently, had so many stories. Yeah, a lot of these older fairy tales have a lot of possible uh origins. Well, not possible origins. Have a lot of splinter stories. I mean, it's like anything because they were told by word of mouth way back when. It just and actually commented on my stream. It's kind of scaring me. I don't know how this works. But because they were told so much through word of mouth, even these because obviously there was a version before Grimm, and the Grimm's fairy tales are just considered the original. Yes, Bork, 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 it is indeed dense. The original stories are definitely much more interesting than um the Disney ones, which were lightened up partly to take the threat out of them because fairy tales had a purpose, and that is to um well, they usually had dual purposes. Like Aesop's fables were obviously to teach uh virtues and other things. But fairy tales more often than not serve the purpose of showing kids that there is evil in this world. And the evil is important, or well, not important, but there are ways to deal with the evil and to fight against it, and in the end, win. I mean, it's all about strength, and honestly, I do think that's part of the problem today with um with the world is that instead of telling our kids stories that are actually scary or actually show them that yeah the world can be mean and cruel and unfair, but if you work hard, you can get around it. You're trying to sell them these stories that, yeah, everybody's going to make it great for you and you're going to be happy because whatever. I don't know. I'm not good at that. That little dog. Scoot himself around. Oh, yeah, see? We see you. We're watching. Got you. Got you doing it. Yeah, and there's stories for Bill Shakespeare too. And he's just the one that got noticed. Yeah. I mean, it's like Hans Christian Andersen has some amazing stories. And there's one of those I'll read sometime. He's not a Shih Tzu. That is a Beaver Terrier. Um, but he's goofy. I saw him wiggling around in the camera, so rubbing his little self all over the floor. Doberman. Dobermans are good doggies. Uh, not what I want. Yeah, yeah. It's I am a cat person, a Khajiit. Fair to say you're just looking for your cat girl then? And a Doberman, great dogs, really friendly and loyal. So that's a long story. Oh, Red Faithful Johann. 12 brothers. 12 brothers. I have a shepherd, a hybrid mix. Nice. Um, hmm, oh, it's German shepherds are great dogs. I love German shepherds so much. Sorry, I'm looking at stories to see if there's a short enough one to read. I should find a copy of this. Copy of their stories. I know I have a copy of all their stories in my house somewhere, but that requires me to dig my books out of storage, and there are not enough bookshelves in this room. I don't know what I'm going to do because I need more bookshelves. I had one Doberman when I was growing up, then two Siberian Huskies, and now a Shih Tzu. I love dogs. Dogs are great. I have never had a Husky. I wouldn't have a Husky. They're loud, they're energetic, and they need brushing. Oh my god, the shedding. I love my little dogs. They don't shed. No shedding. Don't have to worry about it. You Jabberwocky. I am not doing that tonight. Maybe. We'll see how long it is. Oh, so short. I just have to make sure. Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun to read. Wonder if they have one where they didn't keep the old spelling because it's like I know that one word is supposed to be frivolous, and it's like I can't read it that way. I guess I'm gonna have to. All right. So Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll was brillig in the slothy toves, did gyre and gimble in the wave, while mimsy were the borough groves, and the mome wraths outgave. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the claws that blight, or the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jub bird, and shun the fruminous Bandersnatch. Took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manic maxim foe he sought, so rested he by the tum-tum tree, a little while in thought. And, as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame, whiffing through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker snack. Left it dead within its head, he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frivolous day, Callooh Calais, he chortled in his joy. Was brilliant in the slithy toves, did gyre and gable in the wave. All mimsy were the borough groves, and mome wraths outgrave. That wasn't so bad. I would have had the same problem. Yeah. If I could buy books without spending bits, we'd all be in trouble. It was a quick one. Maybe I can find it is I want a short story. It is Halloween. It is that time of year. I'm going to see. Shh, I like that. That might be too long. Oh, I shall flutter back in. What do they have? Okay. So, since it is October, I'm going to go ahead and read an Edgar Allan Poe short story. I'm going to read The Telltale Heart, one of my favorites. Something told me to check back in. Oh, well, if you want to talk, it would be faster, so just wait until I beat Twitter again. Oh. All right, so Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous I have been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease has sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all, was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How, then, am I mad? Hearken, for how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived it haunted me day and night. Object there was, object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye, with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, when I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently, and then when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a lantern, all closed so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I could see him as he lay on his bed. Ah, would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously, oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so a single thin ray fell on the vulture eye. This I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight, but I found the eye always closed, so it was impossible to do my work. It was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. Every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly to the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. On the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. A watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own power, of my sagacity. It scarcely contained my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea. And perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was black as pitch, with the thick darkness, for the shutters were closed fast through fear of robbers. And so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on, steadily, steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening. The old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. In the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. I was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently I heard a slight groan. I knew it was the groan of a mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief, oh no. It was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it had welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo, terrors that distracted me. I say I knew well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. Fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It's nothing but the wind in the chimney. It's only a mouse crossing the floor, or it's merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with all these suppositions, but he had found them all in vain. All in vain, because death, Approaching him, stalked up with his black shadow before him, enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You can't imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow of my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I directed the ray as if by instinct precisely on the damned spot. And I have not told you, and have I not told you what you mistake for madness is over? But oh God, have and I have in And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? Now I say there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound too well. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury as the beating of a drum stimulates a soldier into courage. But even as I refrained and kept still, I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meanwhile, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say louder, every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. For some minutes longer I refrained and stood still, but the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once, only once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor, pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. And then I took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatsoever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. Ha ha. When I made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking in the street door. I went downstairs with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men, who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definitiveness until, at length, the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale. I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet officers heard it not. I talked more quickly and more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard night? Almighty God, no, no, they heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. And this I thought, and this I think, that anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die, and now, again, hark! Louder, 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 louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissembled no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here is the beating of his hideous heart. That is one of my favorites. This could easily be a great Python sketch. I'm not quite dead yet. No, he is quite dead. He just, the guy with. Ah, hate it when my eyebrow starts probably through something. Edgar Allan Poe is absolutely one of my favorite writers. I feel happy. I feel happy. I love that part. That part's hilarious. You got about 5 minutes. I think read you guys one more poem. And then I'm gonna go check on my bread and my dogs. Then I'm probably gonna go to bed because I gotta get up and go to the gym tomorrow. I know I was late tonight, but like I said, I was making that bread. If you want to see the bread, please feel free to join my locals, which now I have to find a link for so I can share it because I'm an idiot. I mentioned it, I need a link for it, He absolutely does. Here we go. Feel free to join my locals. So, this is A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe. Take this kiss upon the brow, and, in parting from you now, thus much let me avow You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, there is it therefore less gone. All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep, while I weep, while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is it all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Suppose I could have picked a longer one. Definitely not the longest. Maybe let me take a look. Yeah, I think next week, since I won't be here the week after. Oh no, I'll be here the week after. 27th, I will read The Raven, I think. For you guys. And I should do myself a favor and clip these out and post them on their own videos. I don't know who would want to watch them, but yeah, whatever. Maybe I'll Edgar inspired me to make my own poetry. Same. Edgar Allan Poe and shit, what's his name? That other one having to do so many. Was Robert Frost. Him and Robert Frost. I really enjoyed them both. Who are you talking to? But yeah, thank you guys for hanging out for a while tonight. I apologize that I was late. We'll be doing this again next week. On tomorrow night is community night again because I fucked up, and there's 2 community nights this month because last Friday wasn't supposed to be community night. That's this Friday. And I'm probably not going to be able to do the Fortnite stream because I have to work. And I'm not sure I'm going to feel up to much of anything. I'll hopefully be able to do a regular 9:30 stream like I usually do. Then Sunday I will be on Rumble playing Scorn. So definitely pop over to Rumble and check me out there. Over there I am horror, or it's Horror Amarada Gaming. I will get you a link. I think I have a. I think there's a command here for it. I have forgotten. Oh no, there is. Cool. So there is a Rumble command so that you can catch that over there. If you want to watch me play Scorn, that will be Rumble exclusive. Well, it might be Rumble and Locals exclusive if I can figure out how to do both at the same time. But anyway, I love The Raven Derp. That is honestly one of my absolutely favorite poems. I've always loved The Raven. The Raven. But yeah. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate all of you. Like the video, follow if for some reason you're not already subscribed to things. And I will catch you guys tomorrow night on Twitch. Or next week